motivating each other and being there for one another. So I was glad that we got to hear from one of our boy members on our team to explain why he chooses Clarendon Dance. Isabella is a new start to our team as well, and I think what's so special about her, what makes me think about her, a lot of the times I have 20 plus members. And a lot of the times it's hard for me to focus individually on one specific student or a group of students. So I can rely on our team and say, hey, can you meet with Sapphire? And then she'll help break it down. And we do a lot of team building within our own team. And it's just really inspiring to see from our Clarendon students to be willing and helpful towards one another. I've noticed them do it at lunch recess, in their morning recess. They'll come see me in the office because I should have started with, I am the school clerk at Clarendon. So they'll come see me. Hey, Miss Carolina, I didn't make it to this practice. What did I miss? Or what do I need? And that motivates me as a coach to know what it is my team is needing from me, what we need from each other. And like I mentioned, this is my second time around. And it's been so far a blast. And each session, we have a growth in numbers. But it's also very fulfilling to see how many of my students continue to return each session, which means I'm getting there. We're getting through something and we're working together. So that being said, I am going to have my dance team come out and show you something we've been working on. So pretend imaginary stage curtain so I can set us up, and then we will show you our steps.
We don't usually have it packed to the gills in this room. We're gonna open the doors. It's cold outside. This is quite the group today.
Feel free to move
also
around.
Feel free if you want to come around to see.
Yeah, let's go around.
Middle line, keep a teeny step just one more note to take notice from the group. Our practice area is the outdoor amphitheater, so it's spacious. So
Yes.
I am proud of my girls for making it work, and thank you guys for having us. We appreciate coming out and showing you what we do. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Miss Carolina. If you continue to grow the group, we're going to have to do this meeting somewhere else next year because that was phenomenal. Thank you so much. Mr. Martin.
And we will now move into our Spread Love Awards. So first, if Miss Lorena Villanueva would come up here. You're going to be very happy. Yes. Okay. You have to wait until after you get your award.
Sorry.
So, Ms. Villanueva, it is my pleasure to recognize Lorena Villanueva for embodying the core value of joy. Lorena's dedication to creating a positive, supportive classroom environment is unmatched, where every student feels valued, supported, and uplifted. As one nominator said, Lorena has had the best relationships with her students and works hard to make sure every student feels valued. Her joy is infectious, with another colleague noting, she comes to work every day, ready to tackle any obstacle, and her joy translates to the students, creating an environment everyone wants to be in. For the second year in a row, Lorena has brought her positivity to Clarendon, volunteering and helping wherever needed. Her caring personality draws students to her, and as another teacher shared, every morning, literally every morning, students from all grades approach her with hugs and smiles. Lorena truly exudes joy in every interaction, and we are incredibly grateful to have her in Osborne. Congratulations, Lorena, on this well-deserved recognition. If next up I could have Miss Brianna Bedoni. As she comes up, I have to share this. Every time I see her in action, it makes me feel so old. She was an 8th grader my first year of teaching at OMS, and so it just makes me feel very old that she's in her 3rd year of teaching. It is my honor to announce Brianna Bedoni for the Spread Love Award for the core value of growth. Over the last 3 years, Brianna has demonstrated incredible growth as an educator, continually evolving and refining her teaching practices. One nominator shared, Ms. Bedoni works to make her classroom learning fun and gets her class engaged in all learning. She incorporates games and activities in each lesson. Her creative and engaging approach has had a profound impact on her students, encouraging both academic growth and a love for learning. Another nominator said, her students truly love coming to school every day, and she is definitely the reason why. Brianna's dedication to both her student success and her own professional growth is truly inspiring, making her a true champion of growth. We are so proud to recognize her for her hard work and continued development as a teacher. Congratulations, Ms. Bedoni. Next up, if we could have Miss Myra Hernandez. It is my privilege to announce Myra Hernandez as this year's Clarendon's recipient of the Spread Love Award for the core value of relationships. Myra has gone above and beyond to build meaningful connections with her students and their families. One nominator shared, I think Ms. Hernandez has done so much for her students this year and values relationships with all of her students. Her efforts to create memorable experiences for her students, including hosting a Posada celebration and providing a special photo opportunity for students on their special day person, for instance, but the list goes on and on. She also creates a warm and welcoming environment where all students feel valued, and she is always willing to listen and support them in any way she can. Her dedication to building trust and connection within the school community is truly inspiring. Myra's impact is felt deeply by both her students and their families, and we are so proud to honor her with this award. Congratulations, Ms. Hernandez.
Thank you.
Next up, if we could have, is Mr. Marshall here? Oh, there he is. Come on up, Mr. Marshall. It is my honor to announce Nolan Marshall as the recipient of the Spread Love Award for the core value of integrity. Nolan consistently upholds the highest standards in both his teaching practices and his interactions with others. One nominator shared, "I have worked alongside Mr. Marshall and have witnessed his passion towards ensuring that his teaching practices reflect integrity." In addition to his classroom, Nolan coordinates the TFA Ignite program at our school, where he provides ongoing professional learning to college students who then deliver small group phonics instruction during our intervention block. Under his guidance, almost every student in the group, which is about 25 students, made typical, most of them making aggressive growth on the Fast Bridge assessment, helping to build stronger readers and closing the opportunity gap on our campus. Nolan's dedication to doing what is right, even when it's challenging, has a lasting impact on our students and community. Congratulations, Nolan, on this well-deserved recognition. All right, and last but not least, Ms. Sarah Borkhouse. It is my honor to present the Spread Love Award for Equity to Sarah Borkhouse. Sarah exemplifies dedication and passion in her work as an instructional assistant, where she provides essential Tier 2 and Tier 3 interventions to students, ensuring every child has the opportunity they need to succeed. Her commitment goes beyond the classroom, though. She is also a proactive member of our Homeschool Association, formerly known as PTO, where she organizes events and fundraising activities that strengthen our school community. Her nominator added, "Sarah demonstrates an unwavering commitment to fostering equity and ensuring students have access to academic success. Through her dedicated work, she targets individual student learning needs with care. Additionally, her collaborative efforts in planning family events reflect her dedication to engaging and empowering families from all backgrounds to ensure that all voices are heard and celebrated in our school community." Sarah's tireless efforts have had a profound impact on both student learning and outcomes, helping to bridge gaps and foster an environment where all students can thrive. Her work reflects her unwavering belief that every student, regardless of background or challenges, deserves equal opportunities for success. Sarah, thank you for your dedication to equity, your support of our students, and your contributions to our school community. Congratulations on this well-deserved recognition. All right, if we could give it up one more time for all of our Spread Love Award recipients. And thank you so much for being a part of this and letting us highlight some of the big things on our campus. And I will turn it back over to President Ed Hermes.
You can just say President Ed, that works, you know. Thank you, Mr. Martin. It's wonderful to see everything that's happening at Clarendon, the wonderful teachers and after-school programs. It's just amazing. So thank you for everything you're doing. I'll turn it over to Superintendent Robert. Anything else to celebrate before we take a quick break?
No further celebrations. I just want to acknowledge what a community Clarendon is. You see so many staff members from Clarendon that are here. They're here for one another at all times. So give it up for all of Clarendon as we recognize them today. And I'll turn it over to you as we go to break.
Okay, we're just going to take a quick recess for about 5 minutes so that folks who can't stay for the rest of the meeting can filter out. But thank you so much for everybody who made it. It's wonderful. We love having you as part of the Osborne community. Yes, and then, not that kind of recess, but our award recipients, if you could come up to the front, we're going to do a quick photo with Jamal. I think we'll have our photo, and everybody else have a good evening. You're welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting. It does get more boring from here, though. Okay.
Also, dance crew, if you could stay behind, and Girls on the Run, we're going to get your picture as well.
Okay, we're going to go ahead and come on back into our meeting. First thing, before consent agenda, just wanted to recognize our newest colleague here to my right, Mr. Eric Thompson. This is his very first board meeting, so if everybody could welcome Mr. Eric Thompson, Board Member Thompson, to the Osborne School District Governing Board. He'll be here for the next 4 years. We look forward to all of your wonderful contributions. Okay, moving on to consent agenda. Any questions or items that need to be pulled off consent agenda? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
I just had one question for Jeff. Do you have a list? I went on the TFA website just to see like which schools were for this year, and I think the last year they had any information on it was like 2020, 2021 or something. It was a while ago. Do you have a list? You can send it later, but I was just curious which schools you were going to be touring. Okay,
Yeah, I'll send it my way, and I'll make sure all board members have it.
cool. Thank you.
Wonderful. Safe travels. I will entertain a motion. Do we have a motion?
I move to approve.
It's been moved. Do I have a second?
I'll second the motion.
Moved and seconded. All in favor of approving the consent agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, it does pass. Call to the public. I didn't see any. Lisa, do we have any?
Yes, we do.
We do. Oh, wonderful.
Actually, what we have are two statements that were sent in via email.
Okay.
And they asked that I read those statements to
Okay.
you.
If you want to read them, or I can read them, whatever you'd like.
You're welcome to read them.
Okay. Unless you read them before, and I could. Okay. Wonderful. I have. Okay, two statements here. This is from Kristen Callison. Good evening, governing board members. Thank you for your time and the opportunity to share my thoughts. The current structure of 3 half-days for parent-teacher conferences creates significant challenges, especially for dual language teachers, who often meet with 40 to 50 families. This schedule requires teachers to work unpaid hours and extend conferences over additional unpaid days, as recommended by leadership, which is both physically and mentally taxing and compromises the quality of communication. I encourage the board to calculate the number of 15-minute conferences that realistically fit into a 3 half-day schedule. Dual language teachers must discuss students' progress in 2 languages, further increasing the complexity and time required for each meeting. While we appreciate the PTO support in providing dinner on 2 of the 3 conference days, the current schedule still does not allow for meaningful, student-focused conversations, adequate breaks for meals or restroom use, or the completion of meetings within contracted paid hours. Reviewing master teacher schedules would provide insight into the significant unpaid hours teachers dedicate to the accommodating families. To illustrate the limitations of the current schedule, each conference 15 minutes plus 5-minute transitions equals 20 minutes per 20 minutes per family, 49 families over 3 days equals 370 minutes a day. Daily schedule starting at 1 p.m. Conferences would run until 7:10 p.m. each day. On half days, teachers do not have a special/prep or planning break. This schedule does not account for split families or challenging parent work schedules and leaves little room for flexibility or thorough discussion or questions. I urge the board to extend conference days from 3 half days to 5 half days, or provide compensation for the additional time required. This would better support both teachers and families. Thank you for your attention to this matter. The second statement, also from Kristen Callison, states the title for this one is Teacher Compensation Step Schedule. And it says, "Dear members of the governing board, thank you for the opportunity to share. I'd like to address the compensation structure for our teachers. Currently, teachers are hired with a placement salary, but there is no step salary schedule to provide opportunities for advancement. The only way teachers can progress in pay is to quit and be rehired at a higher placement salary, which is both inequitable and unsustainable. For context, in the Osborne School District, a teacher with a bachelor's degree starts at $50,000. While competitive at first glance, The lack of salary step schedule for long-term advancement discourages retention and professional growth, as teachers have no clear path to increase their earnings over time. Moreover, teacher turnover is costly. Research shows that urban districts can spend more than $20,000 per new hire due to separation recruitment, hiring, and training expenses. Arizona teacher turnover rate, which is significantly higher than the national average, exacerbates this financial strain and disrupts student learning. I respectfully urge the board to move forward in creating a meet and confer team independent of budget or policy to partake in creating an equitable salary schedule, retaining experienced teachers through clear and fair advancement opportunities will reduce turnover costs and foster stability and excellence in our schools. Thank you for your time and consideration. We really appreciate the statements. Pursuant to the open meeting law, we can't comment on statements, but at least one of them is likely relevant to an item on our agenda later on, and we really appreciate the statements and we'll consider those. Okay, and anything else for the call to the public? No. All right. I'm going to move on with our board presentation from Dr. Woodland. Seriously, unless you'd like me to move you.
I was just surprised that the bond didn't go before. I'm not one to question God, so by all means, I will go ahead. Thank you. In keeping with the spirit of Clarendon School being the highlight, I started with a photo of Clarendon staff. None of these are stock images, and I would like to say thank you to our marketing coordinator, Brendan, for providing me with access to all of his images. Today's presentation is going to be just a little bit of a snapshot at what we've been able to accomplish as a department over the last 3 years since I've taken this particular position in January of 2022, where we are currently, as well as potentially where we have capacity to go in the future. Thank you. So these are just some aspects of human resources, and these are typically the ones that people will attribute to a human resources department. If there are questions, comments, or concerns pertaining to things, this is where we usually get the majority of them from. So people are asking us about onboarding as well as orientation. Usually compensation, benefits comes our way. Any conflict resolution that is needed in regards to employee relations also comes to us. And then there's also compliance and risk management. So this is mainly where people will come to our space, call us, email us pertaining to these particular things. And I like to kind of provide a snapshot in regards to what that has looked like over the last couple of years, meaning what have we been able to do and what do we look forward to doing in the future. So in regards to the area of onboarding and orientation, as a department, we've looked to, I guess you could say, spearhead providing our new hires with welcome items for their orientation session. So this has looked like bags and then other kind of swag items to kind of welcome them to Osborne. It hadn't previously been done, but we thought it would be a nice touch to just give them a nice little welcome, if you will. We've also endeavored to have differentiated orientation sessions. We've had them for certified staff, which includes mainly new teachers, but we've also separated them and started to have them for classified staff as well, which is a little bit more structured and tailored to their duties and responsibilities as opposed to someone who is certified. In addition, we've started to have, I guess you could say, and participate in a plethora of job fairs, both internally as well as externally. When we initially became a department in January of 2022, we'd host hiring fairs here at the district, but we've also started to branch out, participate in them that are local in the local community, as well as a couple that were out of state. We aren't as competitive at the ones out of state, so we haven't done as many of those more recently, but we have begun to spread our wings in that regard. And then also, we launched this particular school year a district-level employee handbook. It was the first that we've had in 10 years since I've been in the district. Not to say that school sites haven't had their own employee handbooks, but one that is provided by the district that references back to our ASBA policy. We saw that as a need. We listened to feedback from staff, and we were able to provide that this particular year. It is provided to staff electronically because if updates are needed, for any particular reason to staff in different positions, administrators, et cetera, we can modify it in real time, and then staff always has that access. That's been provided to staff via email the second week of school, and then new hires as they also come up. In regards to compensation and benefits management, you'll see myself there, and then our benefits coordinator, Daniela. Within the first couple months of being in the role, our department was able to complete a compensation study that had already been started, but complete that particular work, which resulted in over $1 million in raises going to our staff. And we're very, very proud of that particular work. We also were able to, in the area of compensation and benefits management, reestablish some wellness partnerships. For example, we reestablished a partnership with Simon Medical Imaging to ensure that we would be able to offer our staff mammography screenings on site. So that particular partnership has extended. It stopped around the time of COVID, and we brought it back last year, and this was our second year. An additional thing within this particular area is we were able to establish about 2 years ago HR days at sites, meaning as a department we'll close things down over here and go out to school sites, hitting each site throughout the course of 2 to 3 days. And that looks like maybe 2 to 3 hours at each of the sites, because we're cognizant that perhaps transportation could be a barrier to our staff who might need to access something about public service loan forgiveness, change of beneficiary on their life insurance, ask us something about open enrollment. We've traditionally done those fall HR days, but this year we're gonna swing it and do it around this time, the winterish going into spring. And then finally, we only have one benefits coordinator. We have a very, very small department compared to some other districts around us. So we did start, in conjunction with our child nutrition department, a wellness committee. That looked like our benefits coordinator, Daniela, partnering with the child nutrition program coordinator, and recruiting a member of staff from each of the campuses to serve as, I guess you could say, disseminators of all the information. So the things that our department is doing that are germane to staff wellness and benefits goes out through Daniela to those particular people and is provided at staff. And the same thing for child nutrition. This could be inclusive of open enrollment is coming up, or it could also be inclusive of menus are changing at schools. But that's been a really good benefit to us to support us in getting staff information. In regards to conflict resolution and employee relations, I assure you that is a demonstration that is happening for staff in a training session. So no staff were harmed in the making of this photo. But along these lines, for myself, it includes going out to different professional learning opportunities and bringing that information back to train our administrative team. In regards to various things, but I will say within the last few months, we've had a pretty extensive, and maybe Michael would speak to this as well, training on Title IX, just to make sure we are aware of things as people might report them to us as administrators, and or know how to take appropriate steps. And then we've also endeavored to provide our administrators with templates aligned to policy for things such as direction and or reprimand around common topics such as like tardiness to work or supervision of students showing up to duties and things of that nature. So those are some things along those lines. And then we have compliance and risk management. So in this one, I would say we've kind of been a little busy. We've partaken, or myself, I've served on this policy committee that Michael brought to us last year around things like annual leave. We were able to bring some of the feedback from staff that we've had directly. Also along the lines of compliance and risk management, we've taken parts in lots of audits. I'll say the internal ones were intentional and the other ones were not, and also were not welcome. But we were able to also pass all of these audits. So what that looks like in regards to our internal audits is prior to establishing our team in January of 2022, things such as certification or IVP cards, yes, like they all have expiration dates, but it wasn't something that our office was monitoring, which means as an organization, there were times where we might have been out of compliance or times when people's certificates or IVP cards could have lapsed. Now we have that monitored not only in our human resource information system, but we also have regular communications that go out to staff to ensure that it doesn't lapse. So we give 6, 3, and 1 month reminders, and then occasionally we'll leave the office and go to someone's school site to remind them in person. We also have the pleasure of being audited via external organizations. We were audited by the EEOC due to a complaint from a staff member who was terminated. I think Ed, you were here, and I don't know if
I was
anyone else
here,
was.
yeah.
Okay, so when that particular complaint came up, there was an assertion that we were doing something inequitable along those lines. We were found to not be at fault. And same thing for an FMLA audit that came up saying that we weren't following the necessary practices, and we also were able to pass that particular audit. We were audited by a couple other entities, but they aren't listed there. But thankfully, as a department, we've passed all necessary audits, which is definitely a point of pride because there's so many little things that are germane in our space. We also pride ourselves on taking part in professional development. So every spring as well as fall, we partake in professional development with all other HR departments across the state as members of ASPA, which is the Association of School Personnel Administrators Association. So we take part in that. And then finally up there, we have increased our resource communication, just taking note of how many staff take advantage of different things. I'm not sure if you all are a part of our distribution list, but we send out a newsletter from our benefits administrator, Kairos, every month now. We send out information regularly pertaining to EAP, so staff is aware of how they can access free mental health resources. And then we also try to do awareness communications, such as, but not limited to, we send out something annually for suicide prevention awareness, mental health awareness, disability awareness month, and so forth, because they are germane not only to potential things that staff can access, but also just different organizations that we as an organization would like to support that are aligned also to our core values. Yeah, so those are a couple of things. I'll say that. But there are also aspects of human resources that we have not touched. So I would say, yes, it's been a busy 3 years, as evidenced by everything that I've shared and probably some things that I've forgotten to share. But there's so much more that we could do, and I would hope that I'll live long enough and still be within the position to kind of scratch the surface of some of the other things. So I've listed them here as looking ahead. Some things that we haven't quite got our feet wet with just yet would be things such as performance management, things such as workforce planning and analytics. We're kind of scratching the surface this year, I'd say. Things such as succession planning. I feel like we would do ourselves a really good service if we kind of dabbled in that a little bit, as well as training and development. And again, those are not stock images. Those are our staff, and they're very happy. But I want to also provide some context in regards to what this could look like in those particular areas, because I've already addressed the first four. So regarding performance management, this is a wish list. And it's not just from myself, but it's from us as a department as we go to different professional learning opportunities and meet with different districts and hear what they're able to do. We're like, we would like to get involved in that too. So along the lines of performance management, one thing that I've spoken to several staff members about that are classified hourly or classified exempt is the opportunity to revise their classified evaluation tool. It's a little older, and I think it could use a refresh. So that is one thing that I will say along the lines of performance management. An additional thing in that particular area will be probationary evaluations. When I was hired back in 2014, it's something that we did do as an organization, but that would be within the first 90 days evaluating a staff member so that they know kind of where they are prior to the end of the year. And then along the lines of performance management would also be stay interviews. People are like, probationary evaluations will be considered potentially something that isn't necessarily welcome, but another opportunity would be to couple that with the stay interview. So figuring out how have they experienced their first 90 days as well. It's an opportunity prior to someone quitting to hear from them and what their experience has been, and potentially provide coaching opportunities to a master teacher, a mentor teacher, etc. Second, I wanted to mention the workforce planning as well as analytics. This will be an opportunity to utilize our data in staffing to inform our future staffing decisions. We've done a little bit of that this year in regards to looking at planning our recruitment and retention season. But another opportunity would be proactive long-term staffing. So specifically looking at things such as emergency certifications, which are only good for 3 years. So if you continuously staff positions with emergency certified staff, it's a short-term solution to a long-term need. But some of those particular things. In the area of succession planning, looking at opportunities for cross-training, as well as a retire to rehire program, which we already have an existing partnership with an organization. It would just be whether or not we can make that step. And then finally, in the area of training and development, looking at opportunities to provide workshops to staff here at the district office and or at sites. It's something that staff have asked for, like, hey, I want to put in a transfer request, but I need help with like refreshing a resume or writing a cover letter for whatever purpose, or opportunities for them to participate in things such as partnerships with our local universities, applying to college if they are choosing to go back, providing them on-demand e-learning opportunities, as well as potential leadership training. And leadership training is also something that we've dabbled in a little bit. Superintendent Robert did have a leadership academy 2 years ago, and staff really loved it, and they've asked for it to come back. No pressure. And then also really, really thinking outside of the box. I hope this does not get me fired, but for our staff, because those were our departmental goals, for our staff though, and this is from the perspective of we sit and we talk to staff every day, and these are some of the things they may or may not need, and I'll provide justification for each. The first is paid parental leave. Tucson Unified was the first district in the state of Arizona to have full 12 weeks of paid parental leave. It is provocative. Oftentimes people will say that it is only for people who are able to bear children, and that may be true. However, when we think about equity, it's not necessarily giving everybody the same thing. It's giving people who do need something what they need. As your HR director here in the district, I will say that it is very difficult to sustain staff after they have went and had a child.
Yeah, 100%.
And when they have that child and they come back, it's just very hard. And I think that if we were able to alleviate potentially some of the financial burden by providing a paid parental leave, I would say a full 12 weeks, but we'll see what our budgets allow. It might potentially be an incentive for those staff members to come back. There are federal regulations on how that can look. We would obviously follow them all, but that is a wish list in the future. I said it first. I also am aware that Tolleson Unified has it. They have it for 2 weeks. Tempe L may or may not have it on the horizon.
I
don't
think they
know.
have it.
Tempe was the first in Arizona to have it.
Oh, I'm so sorry for misspeaking. Sorry.
Toot-
Tucson's was
hey,
like big
toot your horn
news.
over there.
They
Go
made
ahead.
a splash. Sorry about that. Maybe it was, is yours 12th week?
It's 4 weeks.
Okay, so theirs was 12, and I was like, oh, goodness. So there's that. The next thing would be a medical leave bank. So we do offer FMLA, obviously, but a medical leave bank would be accessible to staff members who've not worked for the district for a total of 1 year. You can't access FMLA unless you've worked for a year. And for staff members who just started and get sick, like right now, walking pneumonia is real and it's getting people, so is the flu. But if I just started and unfortunately I got hired in November, I can't access this and I likely don't have enough leave accruals. If I'm not mistaken, this is something that the district has offered in the past, and I think it might be an opportunity, again, to retain staff, because if I don't have the leave balances, then I may need to have to separate from the district. An additional thing there, third bullet, is sustainable funding for SPED teacher stipends. I was a certified SPED teacher. That's how I got started. I taught for 6 years at Clarendon School, and over the last few years, since 2020, we've had sustainable funding for it via ESSER funds, but now they're gone. And we don't have an opportunity to potentially incentivize new hires and or sustain some of the people that we have. In the past, the self-contained teacher stipend was $5,000, and I believe it was $3,000 for resource. And I would like, as much as possible, to identify some sustainable funding sources for those special education teachers, because they are literally the hardest to find and to keep. Because other districts are offering stipends of $5,000 plus, that might be very attractive to someone who has that appropriate certification. Next, I said professional growth opportunities for classified staff. Again, that is a wish list. We also, if you all are on the distribution list, which I'm not sure, we send out professional growth opportunities for certified staff, which is inclusive of teachers as well as other certified professionals. And annually, classified staff do inquire about that. There are other districts who have this opportunity. I'm not sure all the idiosyncrasies on how they make it work, but it does incentivize classified staff who are going to school, getting additional credits, going to community college for whatever education programs that they're in. So it's something that we might look into. And the last one would be reducing absenteeism. It's a little counterproductive to put this for our staff, but when an excess amount of staff per campus are out, the staff that are there feel that, and sometimes, no pressure, but sometimes they call us and they want to know about, like, hey, why weren't we able to get a sub? And the reality is, if a staff member called out that same morning, then our sub caller, who's a part of our team and works remotely, may or may not have been able to fill that. And I'd also say, regarding reducing absenteeism, we spend upwards of $300,000 a year, which could very much so, fund some of the other things that are up there. So it would be a really great area if we were able to reduce absenteeism, potentially via some other type of incentive program, which we looked into a little bit this year. Couldn't quite get it off the ground, but that would be an ask, because staff are reporting to our office the impact that excessive absenteeism is having. And not saying that people are just taking days that are on Mondays and Fridays, likely having justifiable reasons for these, but it is having an impact. Also, wanting to mention the correlation, because correlation doesn't always equal causation, but in this case it does, to the student growth and or lack of growth, as well as the school's letter grades. All of that is connected. They're like married. They're all in a relationship, like all of those components. And wanting to reduce the absenteeism would potentially have an impact on those other areas. So that is it. I've put a lot of things out there, but hopefully something will stick.
Wonderful, Dr. Woodland. Thank you so much for all of your work. I'm going to open it up to just phenomenal, and I fully expect, or at least really want you to be here for a really long time to see that and so much more through. So we really appreciate all your hard work. Questions for Dr. Woodland? We'll move forward.
We had discussed at a previous meeting the idea of having our employees bank their sick days, so when they retire, then they're able to cash those in. Have we got that program off the ground, or is that still in thinking stages?
So the policy was, our policy committee last year did some work with recommendations. There were two parts to that policy. You approved the first part. The second part was looking at that upon severance from the district if vested. Number one, it was increasing the vesting period, but also looking at increasing the compensation that would go out the door. And so that's part of our budget committee work this spring, is looking at the funding mechanism for making that happen. So you guys preemptively approved the policy, or not preemptively, I mean, you did approve the policy, but we didn't have the funding mechanism for the second half. So we're all set for putting that into place if we have it figured out, what the rollout of that is. So it may not be that we're able to do all the aspects of that. We're looking at staff members that left with more than, like 5 to 10 years, what their payout per day of banked annual leave increasing, 10 to 15 years, 15 to 20 years, 16 to 20 years, 21 and plus years. That may not all happen at one time. It may be a phase-in program. So, one thing that I will point out, not only that, but also all the amazing things that Dr. Woodland presented on the back. She came to you with ideas, and we don't stop dreaming because we don't have the funds.
Those were real big dreams.
But Dr. Woodland doesn't come with a pocketbook to fund all of those things, right? So when we are at the point of having funds and getting into those conversations of what are we going to do with money, we're not in a position of looking at having to cut this year. Blessing.
Bless God.
Wonderful thing. But we can't afford to do everything there, plus the policy that we talked about wanting to put into place and things like that. So now comes a really big, important work of prioritizing. And not looking at something and saying, I can't do it at all, so let's not do it. Right, Tempiel, who started with that paid parental leave, they weren't able to do 12 weeks, but they did 4. If you can't do 4, maybe you can do 2. But if you do that, that means some other thing you may prioritize doesn't get done now either, right? So this is a time of laying all those options out, having those collaborative discussions and prioritizing, and then bringing recommendations to you of here are our prioritized, affordable options that we'd like to bring to you as a budget recommendation. So that's a lot of what you have to look forward to this spring and in coming years.
I'll also echo, I really would like to see paid parental leave here in the Osborne district. When I had my son, I had to take my 20 sick days, and then I took 10 days unpaid. Most daycare facilities will not even take a baby until they're 6 weeks old. And
Mhm.
so it's cruel that we live in a country that doesn't offer paid parental leave. And I think that that would be a real attractor for people to come and work in our district if we were able to offer that. So fully supportive of paid parental leave. Thank you for your presentation, Dr. Woodland.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Board Member Greenberg.
Yeah, thank you so much for your thorough presentation. So I had a couple questions just as we were going through.
Yes.
So to start, going to the medical leave bank, if you had like a magic wand, what would that look like?
So if I had a magic wand, I would probably refer back to what it has looked like in the past, and then with some colleagues who currently have it. I believe Gilbert Public Schools has one. So staff members, I think it's like donate a day to like get access to it, if you will.
Yeah.
And then from there, it kind of falls under the lines of like existing other policies, but theirs is for catastrophic events or accidents. So they're medical based, which is why it's called a medical leave bank, and then you have access to it. It works if you work it. So there is math to it. Like if everybody donates a day, then there is X amount of days in there. But it's more effective if there's like a minimum threshold, if you will. And I'm thinking, based on other policies that we have, such as bereavement, which is up to 5 annual leave days, that it could be accessible for up to 5 days, just so that there's enough days remaining for everybody else who might need it. But every year, and I would say every year since I've been in this role, which is for the last 3 years, there is someone who doesn't meet the threshold for FMLA because they haven't worked here for a year and needs to go out and they don't have the time.
So are you thinking?
Oh, no, go ask your question. Then I have a.
So are you thinking just for like catastrophic medical leave and accidents, or I mean, if you had a magic wand, would you expand that to something else?
I'm thinking for medical related things because that's what the need has been
Okay.
based on what our staff has reported to us. And I'm thinking if I can't access FMLA, which is specifically for family medical leave, then I can access this medical leave bank.
Okay.
But again, we're dreaming, so we can dream together. And
Yeah.
and my dream could be this, and yours could be this.
So the reason I'm asking, like,
Mhm.
for like a catastrophic, like cancer, God forbid, somebody has cancer, like that would fall into that. But
Yes.
if somebody had the flu, like for 2 weeks or something, and they had to use up their days, or they just started, that would not generally fall into that. That's why I was kind of wondering if you were thinking, more broad, or maybe,
Yeah.
and we don't know yet what that would look like, but I would love to explore more of that.
I would too, and see from my guys, it would count. Like,
Okay.
you
Yeah.
give me a doctor's note that says that, like that would be
Okay.
accessible under that.
And just as a point too, that was something that when we went into our policy committee last year, we had a lot of policies that we gave consideration to. And one of the policies that we did explore was our donation of annual leave policy that we have within the district. And that whole committee, we looked at multiple districts' donation of annual leave policies, as well as their, the way a lot of folks handle it. We handle it in a different way in Osborne. Other districts have a bank, right? And so we explored that in our policy committee, and it was the recommendation of that committee to not move forward with that, at that time. So, things have waves of being brought up as, for consideration. But then more examples prompt you to reconsider it. But it is something that has been vetted among us, and those policies are quite in-depth in terms of who's able to access it. One thing that Dr. Woodland is talking about is folks that are not that 1 year vested and not eligible for accessing FMLA. It may be an FMLA eligible event, but they're not eligible for it because they haven't put in 1 year, within the district. So
Oh, I also,
all different types of aspects go into it. We've given it one good look, but it's one of those things that could be explored.
I also wanted to say that prompted me to think about, we decided to keep it the way it is, so it's like donation of annual leave. But the flaw in that particular system, which we've experienced this year, and it's impacted the staff who've tried to take advantage of that, is you could apply for it and then it goes out. It can go out with your name on it or it can go out without your name on it. But if you don't get enough days donated that you needed, then you still don't get the pay. So it's kind of like catch-22, and it's I guess you could say a gap in the current practice that does not serve all the staff who might need to take advantage of it in a year.
Okay. And then you had talked about professional growth opportunities for classified staff, which I think would be amazing. I know that there's been an effort to do that in Phoenix Union. We also have professional growth opportunities for certified staff, and for both classified and certified, there's an opportunity to move forward on the salary schedule. Is there an opportunity right now for certified staff to do that, and what does that
Yes.
look like?
So on our existing salary schedule, it has the grade that you would be placed on, and then it also has additional credits thereafter for bachelor's and or for master's degree with correlating dollars amounts. So if I'm doing, well, there's a form that I just sent out a little while ago, and so staff are starting to send their forms back. But if I was hired at like a MA0 and now I've completed up to 12 credits, then I can apply for the additional compensation that correlates to the 12 credits under a master's.
Okay. Is there an opportunity to do like in-house professional development that could then count
No.
towards that? Okay.
It has to be, per our policy, it has to be through a university, of an accredited university. Then you also have to provide official transcripts. So they send them directly to our office and we verify them that way.
Okay, that might be something to look into as well. Some of the districts also provide salary growth opportunities for doing like NEA micro credentials or other learning opportunities that are free to teachers. So unlike having to pay for like a university credit, but help them move over so that they can get more compensation. So I'd love to see that for both certified and classified. And then I was wondering for subbing, what does that look like in terms of if somebody has to take like a class during their prep? Do they get paid as like an hourly? Is it like split by the number of students that they might take into their class? Is it kind of a combo depending on the situation?
So as much as possible, we try to avoid that. However, when it does happen, I'm not sure if that is compensated.
No, we don't have a paid compensation.
Yeah. So we have subs through one of our 3 vendors, 2 of which we're utilizing currently. One is specifically for contracted staff for the remainder of this year, and it's $150 per day up to 19 days, and then $175 thereafter. And that's the part that filters through my office, which is a part of that absenteeism dollar amount that I could provide for subs, but that does not account for people who are.
Yeah, if there isn't a sub,
Yeah.
then somebody has to take on during their prep. They're not getting compensated for that.
So at the elementary, it winds up being a split list, so many kids will go to one classroom, so many, like if you've got a second grade teacher that's not there and you're not able to get a sub among your 3 other or 4 other second grade classrooms, this teacher may take 3 kids, this teacher may take 4 kids.
Okay, some districts do, like, they'll split, like, if they do by kids, like, I don't know, whatever, if you say the sub pay is X amount of dollars per day, they divide it by the number of students in that class, and then the teacher, if they took 4 students, let's say it was, just for easy math, $10 a kid, it would be a $40 pay for those 4, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does make sense.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So that would be something. And then last thing, for special ed stipends, I know some districts use MIPS funding. So I don't know if we've looked into that. I know that can be, it goes up and down. I don't know what our funding looks like right now, if we're consistently billing and, getting those funds. I know that's a challenge. But maybe that's a area that we could look into to fund those stipends.
If you could, Board Member Greenberg, who is MIPS?
I'm sorry, Medicaid in the public schools.
Okay.
So
got
for
it.
certain health services, like speech services, for example, like if an aide provides mobility services to help a kid get from class to class, there's
Okay.
a list of things that can be billed for. The district doesn't necessarily know how much they'll get back
Yeah.
from that, but the hope is, well, what you want to do is bill for as much as you can, and then you get reimbursed for those
Got it.
services.
And part of that question was about doing that billing. We most certainly do, and we try and collect every single cent. We have, a person that is dedicated as our Medicaid coordinator within the district. And we also have things that, we're paying for using Medicaid funding now. So, we'd be glad to provide a report to you of how we use our Medicaid funding now, as well as like the sustainability of that fund over time.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you so much, Dr. Woodland. I don't think I have a question, just more of a comment similar to a lot of my colleagues. Paid parental leave be phenomenal. I mean, I really, really want to bring that to Osborne. The marketplace of school districts, it's kind of new in Arizona, but it's growing really
Yeah.
quickly,
Mhm.
which is a good trend we want to be on. But in the broader marketplace that we're competing with, most employers are doing it, and some doing it more than 12. So I'd love to get to 12 or get as close to 12 as we possibly can. In the bigger picture, one, I really appreciate the ideas, and I really want to foster this place in this room specifically to be a safe place for ideas. And I really appreciate you kind of affirming what my hope is, which is it is that kind of place. And so you're doing phenomenal. We really appreciate it. As part of not being able to fund everything we want, I hope the state legislature wakes up, gives us more money, and we have a much better budget this year. But I also understand the realities that we have to prioritize, and as part of that prioritize, I just want to make sure that we are, conferring with our Osborne Education Association as part of that, our policy of meet and confer, and bringing these ideas and possibilities, to OEA so that they have the proper input as part of any of these kind of hopefully new and additional compensation type or benefit structures.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Thank you, Dr. Woodland.
Can I have
Go ahead. Of
One
course.
last comment. As far as the paid parental leave, I really appreciate that the dreaming of it, and I think we can get there. And I'd like the district to see what it would cost. I mean, 12 weeks would be great, but realistically, I'd like to see the options. And, like everyone said, even 2 weeks is better than no weeks. So if we can take a look at kind of the breakdown of the costs and what we think we can afford. You won't have a bigger proponent than me on that one. So I think.
And Eric, when we did, this is some years back, but Dr. Woodland referred to the compensation study. That was a multi-year process. At first was doing a classification study, then the compensation study, and then funding it, right? Which took multiple years to get to that point. So, what you're talking about, like see what's possible. That's how you build a phasing in, and kind of set the plan for how you bring that to be. So, I think we've got the right people in place for turning ideas into realities.
Wonderful. Thank you, Dr. Woodland. Really appreciate it. Moving on to our administrative reports. Any questions on our administrative reports? Okay, seeing none, we're going to move on to our information updates, which would be our bond update. Our wonderful friends from H2 are here, and as you're walking up, love the posters I'm seeing all around our campuses. They are phenomenal. I love the buzz that's happening around our campuses related to, not to steal any thunder, but related to the playgrounds. It's out there. We love it. Thank you, and good to see you.
Of course, great to see you. Happy New Year, everyone. I haven't
Thank
seen
you.
anybody since then. So just let me. Perfect. Okay, so we don't have to get too much into the first slide, well, the second slide, which is just the encumbrances. We've had some POs that have happened, but not a lot of substantial spending at this point. But I really want to get a little bit more into, in recognition of timing too, with our projects. So if we could go to the next slide, please. Thank you. So on the Montecito renovation side, tomorrow morning, we're having our bi-weekly huddle with our contractor. So Chase Building Team, we've started meeting with them every other week in the mornings. There's some team members that have not been to Montecito yet. So they weren't part of that team that did the initial walk, but they are definitely part of the team that will be doing all of our estimating and putting together our GMP, the guaranteed maximum pricing. So want to make sure that we get them out there and they're ready to go. So we've got SPS Plus, of course, is working on they've done the programming. We have met with them again last Wednesday, and they rolled out some more floor plans. So lots of work being done and a lot of input being given on the district side and on Montecito admin side too. So that's the updates for Montecito. Playgrounds and play structures. So the first 3 photos on this page are the progress that I think I took these on Saturday. This was out at Solano. So this is the Strive play area, and there were some additional pieces that were purchased, and those went in over the weekend. Oversaw that, and we can go to the next slide because that one is going to show the completion of them. So down at the bottom.
Cool.
So as you know, we've got the playground equipment match received and ordered. We have, so Solano is complete. The Clarendon has been, both Clarendon and Encanto have been fenced off.
Oh, cool.
So yes, so that is all safe site. And the equipment arrived yesterday afternoon at Clarendon. So that's all been put in there. They start tomorrow morning to do the install out there. Looking at Wednesday, Thursday, Friday for install. And I really am grateful to the staff, Jeff, and also Sam, for those teams in, making sure that the students are aware that, they can't unfortunately use the swings for a few days, but it's going to be really great for them once we get done. So we'll move into Saturday. I'll be here on Saturday, and that installation should be complete.
Cool.
And yep, and then the Encanto will start behind that. They'll start on January 27th, but like I said, that's already been fenced off. And the shade structure is going to be a little bit longer lead time, but they'll have the footings poured so that when that shade structure is ready, and they'll do that on a weekend, so there'll be no impact
Cool.
to the students.
Great. Thank you so much.
Of course. Shade structures have been ordered for Encanto and for Clarendon and for Longview. So there's some permitting that needs to be done, but those are on order and expecting probably beginning of summer. I wish we could have gotten them right at the heart of when we actually experience the heat. But, we've got a good rep there if there's any potential way. It's really in the city's hands. I think I mentioned that the last time. So depending on how long permitting is, but that would be great. So we just a little update on the SPED program. I know that the district met, the admin team met today with some of the principals. I think that's ongoing, but there are some plans for SPED after doing a large assessment and lots of walks. I mentioned that the last time. So those changes to the campuses will occur over the summer 2025 of this year. So that's really great. A lot of thought and a lot of programming has gone into that. The SFD coordinating for funding. So we have all of the applications input. Sam's done a great job at getting all of that in there, all the steps to, okay, great, this part's approved. Now we need to get the design scope development done, and SPS Plus is working on that. There was an email today. I read it. I don't want to make a comment on it quite yet. I want to make sure that I speak to with Sam to the liaison, our SFD liaison. But I think the BRG funding is probably, to no surprise, is pretty slim. So we will take all of that into consideration and probably have a better report for you next time.
Sounds good.
Master plan programming campus-wide. We started off kickoff today was with Clarendon, and so we went through with SPS Plus. They're going to do kind of the same thing that we did, maybe a little smaller scale at Montecito, but basically kind of all of the things, right? So all of the funded items, right? So they know, the principals know what's been funded. There's some items that are not funded, but that we're really hoping that we can add in. If we save some money here, we know exactly what the principals will want. And then with the sped changes, so all of these things are working together so that we can start to create a master plan of each campus and identify which things can be done at the same time, what makes sense to do this, what makes sense to package together with different CMARs, every effort to be saving money and, yes, making it all happen. So we're getting all those game plans together. So lots of work going into that. On the child nutrition side, we've done a full inventory of all the kitchen equipment across all the campuses. Anna is with, I think it's Design Tech. She did EVIT. She does a lot of different kitchens. And so we've walked with Corey and with the architect and their team in looking at all of the kitchen, the way it's running, maybe some changes, getting input. So that will be, we'll put together again packaging on that for some CMAR, which is construction manager at risk. So those are a great way to package that, but waiting on the reports on that. And Montecito will certainly be up first because that has been a kitchen that has been, what does Dawn call it? He had a good name for it. Basically, it's been asleep. So it needs
Dormant.
to, what's that?
Dormant.
Yes, but he
Those
had
are my
a
words.
Do you remember what his name
No.
was for it? It was funny, but anyway. So in order for, we're taking all that into consideration, that would have to be the start of this summer because Corey will need to assess, he'll need to hire, he'll need to staff, he'll need to make sure that that kitchen is everything it needs to be. And of course, it's all within the Montecito or the Montessori, there's a lot of development with what the Montessori practices are and what's really going to work well for those kids and the staff there. So life cycle, just kind of, these are just quick updates on the life cycle analysis. We were able to obtain those reports. And most of these on this page are just percentage increases. So these are ongoing projects, but moving the needle on the amount of completion. On the electrical and mechanical equipment assessments, those are all completed. We're waiting on the reports. Technology improvements, a lot of work done on the IT side. Jamal has done quite a bit. We meet on our biweekly team meeting, which is the entire team, so a lot of conversations. Already have spoken to principals about the marquees, and then on AV as well. So the vendors have been selected. Brendan is going to be doing some controlling. I've got contact already on the marquee, so we are really at the front end of being, ready to make a move when we get everything in order for that. So, and plumbing, that's not the most exciting, but we definitely have to have some cammering done. For the Sani Sewer, we've got 2 different companies that we're working with at this point for evaluating and potential lining. So a couple of campuses that have a little bit more, immediate need, but working through those. So
Great.
that's the update.
Okay.
Question?
Any questions? Okay. Thank you so much. We look forward to it. We appreciate the update. Yes. All right. Thank you. Moving on to, you can clap. It's wonderful. Absolutely. Moving on to our action items. Our first action item is approval of the school calendars for 25-26 and 26-27. Start with Dr. Robert.
All right. Well, I'm not going to be exhaustive on this. We spent an hour and a half on this discussion last time, and it was very good and fruitful, and we learned a lot. So there, I'm really going to turn the time over, for the majority of the time, over to you guys if there are any changes of heart, changes of opinion moving forward. But just a quick recap, we presented 2 calendars to you, an option 1 and an option 2. There was discussion of the potential of bringing forward a third option, an option C, which was looking at a longer Thanksgiving break, that week of break. Didn't move forward with polling everyone on that, just some of the initial conversations that were had. One of the big things in those initial conversations with staff and thinking about classified staff, how difficult the conversation was around even singular days that are board declared holidays but not paid holidays, like a national holiday, how that impacts the classified staff. Now, their calendar may be for 180 days throughout the year, but their pay isn't annualized, right? So they're getting paid based on clocked hours. So if there is a day such as the Wednesday before Thanksgiving, the Thursday and Friday are paid holidays, but that Wednesday before is an unpaid day. We talked about the board declared holiday in April. You know, if we have a board declared holiday in there, then that's 9 paid days during that pay period. So there's, you know, people have to adjust their expectations of pay during that period. If we went to a full break during that Thanksgiving time and we're just kind of shifting when those 180 work days are, that's a whole week period. So in a pay period, you're going from the normal pay period of 10 days during a pay period to a 5-day pay period. Well, a couple of those days are paid, you know, in terms of Thanksgiving, the 2 days at the end of Thanksgiving. But there's a major shift of looking at a few days that are not paid in that pay period. Really hard adjustment for folks to make, especially right before the holiday period. You know, that break is 3 weeks before our holiday period. So, presentation of the 2 calendars from last time. There was a calendar A, a calendar B. Calendar A was pretty much status quo, staying with the same format of calendars that we've had for the past forever. Number of years, really sticking with the Phoenix Union calendar with some changes that we may have made, you know, within the district that isn't necessarily the same as all school districts, but for the most part, status quo. Calendar B, and that had a 54% favorability when looking across the district. Calendar B allowed for an earlier start to the school year, a little bit of a soft start on a Thursday, Friday, to allow some open times for having more professional development. You know, when I look at just coming back now, if we were to go with that calendar B option, we'd be looking at that first day back from break as a work day for staff, but not a day for students. Not only is there that professional development opportunity for our certified staff, but also, you know, looking at our classified staff. It would have been a great opportunity for Sam and Debbie in the transportation department. There have been some things that have happened over the beginning of the year that Sam could use the time for providing some more professional learning, things that he knows he's got to do, you know, got to get in there. But there have been some things that happen in the beginning of the year. It's like, oh man, we really, you know, need to get everybody together. That would have been a great opportunity for, you know, that type of learning on that day. I'm sure Corey, with his kitchen staff, could use that mid-year as an opportunity. One thing that we've been hearing in our working condition surveys too are those opportunities for professional learning for all staff. So that option B, that calendar provided that January 5th day for next year, that first day after the 2-week winter holiday, as a work day for staff, not for kids. It was really important that one of you, I think it was Violetta, that you brought up that you were definitely not in favor, and there was some concurrence of other board members. If we did go with that calendar, if you're looking at the 25-26 school year, starting the school year on Thursday the 31st and Monday, August 1st, those 2 days as that soft start to the year, not having them be half days. You wanted those to be full days, so I removed that initial thought from that calendar. Those would be full days of school because the board seemed pretty in agreement if that calendar B were to be an option.
Okay. I have one question I want to open it, then open it up to others. My memory doesn't quite serve me from last month, and maybe I just didn't understand. You mentioned something about there would be a financial impact with option B. Did I remember that correctly?
Yes.
What is that? Could you explain that again?
Yes, it would be, Colleen, are we looking at 2 days, 2 additional days for classified staff from what their current work calendar is?
And that it,
into their calendars. So yes, and then there was an additional day somewhere else that was being added, I think at the front, so that they wouldn't feel like they lost those 4 days before the first day of school that we have now, is adding that as well, I think. So it was 2 days, not for all staff, the physical impact is for those classified staff that don't already have those non-student days in their work calendars.
got it. Just so I can, colleague, just so I can have an idea in my head of those staff we're talking about. Is that like a front desk? I'm just thinking out loud, like front desk. Like who might those?
We're talking
staff
about
be?
instructional assistants in the classroom. Our front office staff actually have additional days. So there's your school-based instructional assistants work a 180 day. They work the 180 days that kids are in school. If kids aren't in school, then they're not being paid. If they were, but they don't come in those days, right? So if we're adding a day onto the beginning or adding a day in January, then there would have to be compensation. Our front office staff start well before the school year begins.
That makes sense.
And with some of our positions within our operational teams as well. So like our night cleaning, night custodial positions, they don't have any of those additional days built in either. Some of our food service workers, depending on the tiers of those positions through those departments, don't have those additional days either.
Got it. Okay. Questions, Board Member Greenberg.
What's the first day? Like I know this is the calendar for students. What's the first day that staff would be expected back teaching staff?
For calendar A, let me just do some quick calculations. So calendar A for the 25-26 school year, that's pretty much just what we have this year. So staff members, returning staff would come back on July 29. New staff they come on the Tuesday, right? So they would be coming on July 22nd. So our first day of new teacher orientation would be July 22nd.
That's with which A or B or both?
That's for A,
A. Okay.
with returning staff coming on the 29th.
That's A.
That's A.
Okay. And that's different with B then.
It is different with B. Looking at the same number of days, we would have returning staff come for 4 days before the school year begins and 1 day at the very end. So that's why we tend to end our school year on a Wednesday or a Thursday and not on a Friday, because there's one additional day that our teaching staff work once kids are done. Then that's their day for doing records, all of that, clearing out their classrooms and that. So that 5 additional days. So with calendar B, those 5 additional days are as follows. Their first day returning would be Monday, July 28. So there's 28, 29, 30. That's 3 days. Day number 4 would be Monday, January 5th. And then their 5th day would be the day after kids leave.
Would there be additional compensation for certified staff then? Because they'd be starting a day earlier.
No, they're also finishing a day earlier than in calendar B.
Oh, that's right. Sorry.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So certified staff is the same number. Now, part of that, why we had initially brought the first 2 days with on July 31 and August 1, with a recommendation of those being half days, is recognizing that if returning teachers come on Monday, July 28th, and are starting teaching on the 31st, we don't have as much time before kids are in the building that teachers are there. So pretty much all of that time would need to be devoted to getting their classrooms ready. We take some time for, there may be like a half day that all of our special ed teachers need just with our director. There are days that our dual language teachers or our SEI teachers are focusing on some of those English language development or second language development ideas that they're coming together. We may not have time for all of those types of meetings, so the initial hope was if we had half days, those first 2 days, some of those trainings that we normally do in those first 4 days that teachers return, we really want them to be able to maximize on. Because then if they return on Monday the 28th, they've got to get classrooms ready. We normally have some type of meet the teacher night in there. So there's very little time, in terms of getting the classroom ready, and we can't take up all that time with meetings. So if we did have the afternoons on the 31st and 1st, it would allow for us to be able to still have some of that professional time for doing some of those meetings so that we could respect that teacher time in the beginning before kids get there.
Dr. Rivera, you had shared that you chose not to share an option 3 because of conversations that you had with staff. How many staff members did you speak to, and can you share some of that feedback outside of the pay?
That feedback was generated around the pay period. It all had to do with how much pay is received during those pay periods. So having that longer break during that time, during that Thanksgiving time, would then be that smaller compensation. Over the year, they're still getting paid the total number of days. But what the hardship that is at that time, especially right before the holidays. So it was not extensive, but it was. I had spoken with a few people. As well as, that was also part of the conversations that we had when engaging staff too. And in my conversation when I met with all of OEA, and that conversation about it wasn't directly related to that Thanksgiving time, but it was related to that idea of how difficult those pay periods are when you're not getting the full 10-day paycheck that your expectation is.
And then, was there any parent feedback received for the different calendar options?
I haven't received anything since these options have been. When I began the work with the parent committee, there were no calendars. It was getting the input, and then we use that input for building calendars. So there isn't something of sent out district-wide, here's calendar A, here's calendar B. I only did that with staff.
Can you clarify, was OEA part of the building of the calendars, or was OEA just presented the 2 options?
Everybody was presented the 2 options. OEA was brought in before any calendars were built. So I met with the entire membership of OEA in the same way that I did with parents. And then it was taking that input that was gathered from both of those and using that to build calendars. Now, mind you, in terms of building, I had the potential things in mind just from knowing how, in discussing, calendar A is a calendar that we've all known and seen and been using forever. So in that conversation that I had with the association, we were able to it wasn't presented like you're seeing here, a paper with blue and orange and whatever marks on it. But when discussing what that January 5th day would look like, we talked about, okay, the impact on that would have to be at the beginning of the year, fewer days at the beginning. And how would we do that? So the idea of starting on the 31st and the 1st, that wasn't a me thing. That was from that conversation that I had with the association about around that idea of that January 5th, how it would be constructed. So then I used all of those ideas, and then I come to Lisa. And I say, okay, Lisa, here are the things that we've gathered. Help me put this into a visual format. So really the conversation started with parents. OEA brought then to the administrative team, used all of those ideas, built calendars, sent those calendars out for getting input from all staff doing a survey, collecting that survey, and then bringing all of that data to you.
Other questions? I will. I've got another question. Then I'll just kind of give an opinion after that. But it was brought up earlier about parent-teacher conferences, which I think is relevant to our calendar here. And I really empathize with the teacher that wrote in here. This I think pertains mostly to dual language. So. Which I think is majority of at least at Encanto, maybe Clarendon as well,
And Longview as well.
and Longview. So I mean, it's a lot of these teachers there in the dual language have got 50, 55, maybe perhaps close to 60, but somewhere in that range to meet with. And that kind of struck a chord with me, that statement. What can we do to alleviate? I know the burden on parents too,
Sure.
in terms of half days, and I feel it there as well. But what are your thoughts in terms of what can we do there, whether it be compensation or something to help, especially those dual language teachers who've got that extra
Yeah,
there?
and I recognize that, and as a principal at a dual language school for 10 years, it's something that we've discussed most certainly. So in the same way, our middle school teachers have 150 kids, and on their caseloads, they may not, be having the 20-minute meeting with every single parent, but caseload is something that goes up and down. Not just from an administrator perspective, but from a teacher perspective. I never had the opportunity to say everything that I may have wanted to say during a conference, or parents, everything that you want to say. But you engage families not just on that night, but hopefully the conversation's an ongoing conversation. Our conferences are set up for a finite amount of time. And so, we have worked over many years in having these conferences. Our precedent is having those, it's actually 2 half days. Wednesday just happens to be an early release day. Prior to having Wednesdays as early release days, I don't know. Carol, you were around back then. I don't know if those Wednesdays prior to early release were half days for conferences or not. I think it's only been 2 days for those conferences. Our middle school teachers don't receive any extra compensation. Our dual language teachers, it's not, if we could talk about all the work that goes into teaching, there's lots of other opportunities for compensation, and I think we work our best to build out that compensation. There are, part of the addendum contracts that are available for our dual language teachers do recognize that there is a heavier load on them than there is on non-dual language teachers. So it's not a compensation that's broken down into total number of hours, total number of days that it takes to be a dual language teacher as compared with a non-dual language teacher, but we do provide some form of compensation through an addendum contract for our dual teachers, and we've made some modifications to those contracts, in the past couple years.
Yeah. Got it. I mean, I just
In terms of changing this calendar to, I really hate punting this calendar decision to much longer, but I would not make the recommendation of taking an entire week as half days without vetting that with our parents.
I hear you on that. And I don't want to punt either, because this is tabled before. I think parents really and staff and teachers really need to and deserve to know what the calendar is going to look like for next year. But it's something I just want to keep in mind. What we can do comprehensively.
This is 2 years worth of
help with that.
calendars. The most important one is next year's.
Yeah.
We can adopt. Phoenix Union just adopted calendars all the way through 2031.
Yeah.
If they stay exactly as they voted on, all the way between now and 2031, fantastic. They did some great visioning, but there's nothing that says that that calendar can't change. So if you want to examine these calendars a little bit more and get that input on that, we can explore it for further years. But I do think we need to move forward with a minimum of a 25-26 calendar. This recommendation is for 2 years of calendars, and I would like us to approve 2 calendars. If we want to come back and look at that second calendar, so be it. But I do think we need to move forward.
Yeah, I agree, and I appreciate doing 2 years. My thought generally moving into my kind of opinions here, I still like option A. You know, I wanted to try to take some time to think about it and get feedback. I think I got an email, I think it was just today, from a teacher, Caitlin Schrey, who kind of summed up my thoughts, and I wanted to just kind of read it for folks. She said that, I do believe it's within our best interest to keep the first day of school the way it has been and keep it in August. Speaking personally, I believe morale will be starting at a low if we force staff back even earlier in July. That shortens our summer break that is happening this year. We all need our break this year more than ever. With teachers leaving the profession in droves, I think that something as simple as a start day matters a lot. While it's only a couple of days of difference, I still think it means something for the staff to have those couple of days to better prepare rather than sacrifice the little time we have left to ourselves to begin teaching in July. I do not say that to be dramatic, but I think it's important to think about. So really appreciate everybody who kind of contacted us about the calendar, and both last go round and this go round. And if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I like A. So happy to take other questions or move right into motions. Any questions? Any motions?
I move to approve calendar A.
Okay, it's been moved. I'll go ahead and second that. And we'll go into a vote. All in favor of calendar A, say aye.
Aye.
And all opposed, say nay.
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 Okay, just for our minutes here, that would be 3 against and 2 in favor. So board member Ford and I in favor, and then 3 against. Are there any other motions?
Before I motion, so I surveyed a whole bunch of teachers from my previous job and other connections that I have, and everybody was ecstatic about the idea of if they could have that possibility of having January 5th or the first day of the spring semester as a day where they could get professional development, and seeing it from the classified side, which my wife was a classified employee at Phoenix Union for 2 years. She's now a certified teacher. And seeing the fact that they don't get those opportunities to have the professional development with no students. So that is why I personally am leaning for calendar B. And we also did receive another email from another teacher, and this teacher went on and created a whole new calendar, which looked really cool, but it definitely extended a lot of more days. But in his calendar, he actually put 2 in-service days at the start of the second semester with students returning on Wednesday. So I'm not suggesting that, but seeing how other teachers are liking this option as well. So I don't know if we need to have more discussion or if I can just motion.
Board member Thompson, you go ahead.
I just wanted to echo what Board Member Ramos said. You know, in my discussions that I had as well, there was a lot of approval of having that professional development day, and I think that's really important for the staff to get, especially for those classified staff members who don't necessarily have those opportunities. So that's why I was in favor of calendar B.
Got it. Okay, no mystery here. Do we have a motion?
I move to approve the adoption of calendar B for the next 2 school years.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Nay. With a vote of 3 in favor and 2 opposed. You don't see that very often here. The option B does pass. Okay. Thank you so much. Really appreciate all of the opinions and thoughts here. We'll move on. Moving on to a first review of revisions to ASBA policy IHBR.
policy IHBR is in relation to special education and special instruction programs. In reviewing this policy, as you scroll through it, the majority, vast majority is just referencing statute. So it's just putting the appropriate statute in the policy. There are some changes that have more to do with high school than they do with elementary schools. So that's in reference to if a secondary child is not on track to graduate, that they need to be notified of graduation dates, things that don't pertain to us. So for any statutory reasons of anything that that would be related, I would approve this as is. The secondary things do not matter to us.
Great. Do I have a motion?
Can I just ask a clarifying? I'm trying to remember. For 8th graders, are they required to have a transition plan now? With, I don't know if you remember. I know this is more focused on high school and graduation dates, but I'm trying to remember if there were any changes for 8th grade. Okay, thank you. I'll motion to approve.
Been moved. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Been moved to second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Hearing none, it does pass. Okay, moving on. Board reorganization. This is our annual meeting that we elect our officers here. So first item is the election of president.
And just to clarify before we go through anything, just procedure-wise, I've seen this procedure happen before where it wasn't clarified in the beginning, it made for awkwardness. So the first thing is to open up a nomination to see if there is one or multiple nominations. Then once nominations are held, we should take a vote on those alphabetically if there's more than one nomination. So I
will
leave it to you to open up nominations.
I will open up the nominations for president.
I would like to nominate Board Member Ramos for president.
I'd like to second the nomination. Are there any other nominations? Are there any other nominations? I think one time I had to say it 3 times in a row.
I think we just need to make sure she accepts the nomination.
Do you
too.
accept the nomination?
Accept the nomination.
Wonderful. Are there any other nominations? Wonderful. Thank you so much. All in favor of Board Member Ramos as the president of the Osborne School District Governing Board, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay. Hearing none, congratulations, Board Member Ramos. I will come over and give you this gavel here in a bit, but not yet. I will round out this election here first. I'm going to open up the nominations for the election of clerk.
I nominate Board Member Greenberg.
Do you accept the nomination?
I do.
Are there any other nominations? Hearing none. All in favor of Board Member Greenberg as our clerk, say aye.
Did we need a second for that?
Yes.
Do I have a second? It's been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay. Hearing none, congratulations as your re-election as clerk. This is wonderful. I'm bringing this over right now. Okay? I'm bringing this over right here. I'm going to just swap you out. It is official as of that.
You don't have to change seats yet. We'll have that arranged for you next time.
Next time.
Perfect. Congratulations.
On your retirement, Ed.
It's been great. Congratulations.
Thank you. I know.
Okay. I'll just round out this item and then have you take over from there. But establishment of meetings, dates, times, and places. Dr. Robert.
Yes. So there were some questions that were asked. I know that it's hard for you guys to necessarily think to read your emails in the middle of the day of a board meeting, but there were questions asked about the proposed meeting calendar. So I'll just kind of go over my response in case you didn't get a chance. First of all, there were a couple dates of regular board meetings. I printed out a new one here. It's in front of you. There are some changes in red. Those changes in red have new dates. So the regular board meeting, the one in May is May 13th, not the 14th. August 19th, not August 20th, because those were Wednesday dates. It's on Tuesday. We weren't changing the day. That work study session for November is November 6th, not the 4th, just to have it on that Thursday. So that's number one. That's the regular board meeting dates, as well as the recommended time of 5:30. The second question was in regards to the work study sessions and consistency between like the regular board meeting and the work study meeting. So just a little bit of background, and one thing that I pointed out in my email, the idea of consistency, there's consistency between the meetings, and there's also consistency with precedent. So I just wanted to give you guys what the precedent was. The regular board meetings, we're all sitting up here at the dais. We've got the cameras that are up there. We've got a recording of it. Those cameras are pointing at us here, right? It's able to move in between speakers. You've got the microphones. We've got all of our business happening in the regular board meeting. This is the meeting for the community. This is so that all of the workings and regular happenings of the governing board are presented to our community, and we go out of our way to make sure that our community, we've got the chairs set up for people to be there, people watching at home. So that's what the regular board meetings are for. The work study sessions are an opportunity for you to have some deeper, dive deeper into some conversations. Not that they're not, they are, we've got a quorum of a board that's present. We have conversation that's going on that the public absolutely would be very interested in, may be interested in. But you'll notice that the setting of those meetings, we don't have this set up. We don't have the live stream happening. We're in a rectangle. We're sitting around the table. There's not extra chairs that are there for the community necessarily to be there. Certainly can be, and anyone that shows up, we'll pull up a chair for them. But the purpose of that meeting is for that deeper learning for the board. It's not our action meeting. There aren't those action items. Every now and then we may have an action item that comes at those work study sessions. But the purpose of those work study sessions is for you to dive deeper into that. So in terms of consistency, those work study sessions were generally held at 4:30 for like the 20 years before this past year. We changed the date and time of the work study sessions last year. I'm looking to, hoping, number one, to move them back to Thursdays. And my recommendation was for a 4:30 start time on those work study sessions. For the sake of, a lot of times we're bringing staff members into those meetings. It's where we'll have a committee member, like when our budget committee meets and we have them, we invite that whole budget committee. So the whole purpose of the 4:30 time is just thoughtfulness of the staff, whether that's teaching staff, classified staff, administrative staff, community partners that we may be bringing in. That's the whole reason behind the 4:30 time. I also recognize that these are your meetings, so you guys get to set the time on them. I hope not for super late, but back when I first got to the district, there was a governing board member that was a business owner, a small business, and she was the only one that ran it. We started our board meetings later because that's the time that we just needed to start. She didn't close down shop until after 6 o'clock. We started our board meetings at 7 o'clock, and they went late. We've moved them up, as necessary. So my recommendation was, number one, for these dates, but number two, with a starting time for the regular board meetings at 5:30 and for the work study meetings at 4:30 on Thursdays. But that's brought to you as our recommendation. I would take this in two parts in terms of conversation before bringing it to a vote. Number one, are you guys okay with these days? Number one, the dates, and number two, like moving the work study to Thursdays and then and then have conversations about the times. And I'll turn it over to you, Ed, to lead that conversation.
In terms of days, Dr. Robert, I mean, I like consistency. Third Tuesday, boom, boom, boom. People know where to find us, right? So on that point, the avoiding the last week of school, could you walk me through the thought there?
Yep.
I mean, you know,
It's very simple. And if you don't want that, we can very easily make it May 20th. That's also when promotion's going to be happening. So if
on
you're
May
looking,
20th?
well,
Yep.
looking at the calendar that you just approved, that last week of school in calendar B
When's promotion?
is
OMS.
calendar B for 25, 26. Oh, I'm sorry. That's the next school year. That doesn't matter to this year. Sorry.
Yeah.
So the rationale behind it is we've got promotion ceremonies that are happening that week, Wednesday, Thursday. We'd love for the board members to be, the promotion ceremonies are our kids. It's their last thing.
Yeah.
If you want it to be on the 20th, we can have it on Tuesday or on the, it's set
Yeah.
for Tuesday. So if you wanted to have it on
The 20th.
the 20th, you could, but that would be the night before promotion, with promotion also happening the next day. So it would definitely obligate you to that Tuesday, maybe that Wednesday, Thursday. That last meeting is very staff heavy. That's when we do retirements. It's when we do our You Make the Difference awards. So it's when we have lots of 20-year, 25-year recognitions. It's staff heavy. And the last week of school, when there's promotion happening, when there are lots of activities that are happening on campuses, I just think it would be a lot more respectful to staff. Although we love the consistency of that third Tuesday, I think it would just be a nice offer to do that meeting a week earlier so as to not burden staff. Also, if you are going to make it to promotion, that's got you late nights 3 days that week.
Board Member Greenberg.
I was wondering if my fellow board members would be open to or interested in making our meetings Tuesdays. So we have our regular board meetings, but then moving our work studies to that Tuesday of the week that they're currently scheduled instead of doing Thursdays. I feel like for, at least with my schedule with kids and stuff, having a day makes it a lot easier than 2 different days in the week. Just with kids' activities and stuff, it tends to happen the same day every week. So it makes it a little bit harder to plan those things, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So you're proposing the 6 work study sessions would be the same week, but essentially would be 2 days before that.
Mm-hmm.
2 days before what you see here.
And our schedule would essentially be a meeting every other Tuesday, give or take.
That's what we're doing now.
That's what we're doing now.
Mm-hmm.
Got it. Questions, thoughts? Let me get everybody's opinion on that.
I would be fine with that.
I think back to the consistency part, if we say, and I do appreciate what Dr. Robert is saying about, well, it's consistent now, but it's not consistent in the past, and it can throw people off. But I do agree that if it's just, all right, Tuesdays, the first and third Tuesday, for example, that it's easy for the public to get in the habit of knowing, okay, Tuesday, that's the Osborne board meeting.
Yeah. I like it too. Tuesdays. I mean, that's what we're doing now. It's Tuesdays.
So I would just need to look at the dates, like for the most part, that's going to work. But October 2nd,
Have to be pushed. Yeah.
that would either be September 30th, which is now a third September meeting. I don't know that you want that. So then would we do it a week later, October 9th? We can. That would then be or not October 9th, October 7th. Yeah, thank you, Violetta. If that's the case, if you wanted to make it just on Tuesdays, October 7th is the first Tuesday in October.
Any issue with that being, if I'm looking at the calendar, right? Fall break?
That probably is an
yeah.
issue. I mean, I think this year we canceled it because
It
it
is.
fell during fall
Yeah,
break.
that is fall break.
Yeah.
Do we?
And work study sessions aren't mandatory. You know, like we don't have to have a work study session, but the big thing out of identifying this, and this is something that I planned on taking up with the new board president, but it'd be really good to start thinking about if we're going to have these work study sessions, because what we've done is we used to have like 10 work studies a year and wind up canceling 4 of them. It's like, why schedule all these meetings and then cancel them? Let's just kind of put work study sessions on there. You know, we know that March, April time, we're coming for budget discussion. October is normally when we do an academic data overview. February, March is when we're looking at our discipline data overview. You know, so kind of just thinking big picture, here are some of the things we dive deeper into, and that leaves, you know, 3 other work study sessions of what are some topics, you know, maybe some of those things that Dr. Woodland brought up or something like that. We need some more time to dive deeper into, right? So I'm good with, you know, like starting to look in what some of those things are, but yeah, that does make the 7th an issue.
Well, and also, in the October meeting, I do appreciate taking the AFR into account. The board meeting is going to be pushed up to that second Tuesday in October anyway, so we will already be meeting on the 14th. So I guess it has the question: do we need the
Right.
the one a week before that anyway?
So we can look at canceling that
Yeah, let's.
October
I think
work
we
study
take that
session.
October one out, and so we have leaves us with 5.
Can we move it to December, the beginning of December, and have an early December meeting?
Yeah,
Because we're moving from 7 work studies this year to 6.
I think
so
that's a
I would
great
hate
idea.
to see that move to 5.
Yep.
So
We can put it in December. The whole reason that I kind of clustered them was avoiding the first month and that last month, like December, tons of winter, you know, that's when schools want to have winter. And, you know, one thing that was mentioned is once we set these dates, we're asking schools to not have events on those dates,
we're
right?
sticking to it.
So, you know, by doing a December one, part of the reason I was trying to get out of the December extra board meeting habit was just out of recognizing that there are winter programs. But we can do that in future years when it works out with the calendar. But we can add in, if we're removing an October, we can add a December
I think it'd be second,
Second.
December 2nd. Yeah, people aren't getting
the-
festive yet.
The other option could be that October 2nd is the only one that's on a Thursday. So that way we're not moving into December. Because I do know there's a lot of events in December for schools.
I think December 2nd we're probably okay. You know, I think that the holiday things are usually a little bit later, a little bit closer to the 25th. But so I like the idea of December.
I would second board member Ford's concerns too about cutting down work studies. I know that I actually think that there are probably more things that we could be spending time talking about in work studies. I know we have a policy committee, but I'd like to see more of that work really driven by our board. And so I think we need more time to spend on that. We need more time to spend reviewing data more consistently, so we can make those informed decisions. So, I mean, I would even be in favor of adding one in the summer, but I know that it's a busy time for people in the summer too.
I have a question about the November meeting. If we move that to November 4th, that is an election day. Is the governing board room going to be used for elections? I'm not sure of
That in
what's on the ballot.
2025.
Yes.
I don't know what's on the ballot.
I mean, there will be an election.
There won't be.
We're not holding an election,
Okay.
but there will be
2025.
a general election on that day.
We could hold that somewhere else too. The meeting could just be held maybe at a school or something like that.
Yeah. So I think what I'm
Do you want to start at the top with February
what I'm hearing is February
11?
for 11th, March 4th, April 1st, April Fool's Day. We'll have some fun with that. September 2nd, no October, November 4th, and December 2nd.
Can we go back to the February one? So
Yeah.
it's specifically the 13th because of the Longview community meeting.
Yep.
Should we just stick with that first Tuesday in February then?
Another community forum
okay.
on that
Okay.
Tuesday.
You're right.
February 11th is, we're good with that?
Yes, February
Okay.
11th is okay. That's what I'm looking at right now. Is,
Okay.
if there's anything that's on
And
calendars.
then that's work study sessions.
March 4th, April 1. I'm just checking from what I know right now to make sure that there's not anything scheduled. There's not anything scheduled there. And then September, well, there shouldn't be anything scheduled for September because we're not there yet.
Yeah.
It
That's
is-
next school year.
It is the
so-
day after Labor Day, just FYI for everyone.
Yep. So September 2nd, November 6th, December 2.
Yep.
Those are the 6 that we have.
November
Fourth.
4th. November 4th.
Oh, yep, sorry, didn't
December
didn't cross
2nd.
that off. Yep.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna switch us back over to the regular board meetings. Did we come to a resolution or kind of a consensus on that May, whether it be May 13th or the 20th? I like the consistency of the 20th, but would love to get other thoughts and opinions.
I mean, as an educator, that last week of school is a little crazy. And so I know, unless we say to our administrators that they don't have to come to that one, but that's always a big meeting with food and fun and stuff. So I don't think that would make sense. So I would say to keep it for the 13th. I just think that's a lot.
Sounds good. Okay, that sounds good. I think besides that then, so I don't think there's any changes on the dates on our regular board meetings. Time. Any thoughts on time here? Board Member Thompson, I see your finger there pushing the button.
So a 4:30 start would be pretty difficult for me to get to.
Yeah.
So I would like more, if it were up to me, if we were consistent 5:30, 5:30 we have the regular board meetings, 5:30 we have study sessions, and especially if we're doing all Tuesdays, it's very consistent.
Yeah,
Tuesday, 5:30. That would be my thoughts.
I like that. Other thoughts on that? Okay. Just want to make sure I'm getting everybody. So 5:30. I like the.
I'm okay
Board
with the
Member Ramos.
5:30. I just I do know that the staff stays late, so that's the only thing to keep in mind is that we're asking staff to be here at 5:30. That's all.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough for me to get to too. It's by 4:30. I just remember in the past when we've done it at 4:30. A lot of times we didn't need to get started right away because it's tough to get a quorum at 4:30. So, I get it. Well, but given that there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, we're doing it at 6 right now. I think is when our start time is this year on work study session. So we're moving it 30 minutes earlier. If we were to do 5:30. Other thoughts on that? Okay, I'm gonna.
So,
Go ahead.
I'm just going to do clarity, and then when you make
Yep.
a motion, it'll be on the amended meeting date time that I'm saying. So make sure this fits.
Okay.
Everything stays the same on the regular side.
Yep. On
Work
dates.
study sessions 2:11, 3:4, 4:1, 9:2, 11:4, and 12:2.
Yep.
The wording at the top will be third Tuesday of every month at 5:30, first Tuesday of every month at 5:30 for the work study.
Yep.
Wait, is it always though? 2:11 is not, right?
February 11th was. Correct. We have, yeah, we can put a note there. And it's not due to the Longview community meeting, it's due to the, what do we have? No, Solano's this Thursday.
Canto Clarendon.
There we go.
Okay.
So we'll change which, yep.
Great. Is there a motion? I move to approve then. Is there a second?
Second.
As amended.
What was the motion?
The motion is to approve the approve the meeting dates, times, and places as amended. That Dr. Rivera just read out.
Are we changing the study sessions to 5:30, or are we
Correct,
saying that
yes.
4:30? Okay.
Yes, the motion is 5:30 for both.
I'll second that.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. It does pass. Thank you so much. We're going to move on, although I'm not going to lead this anymore. I don't have the gavel. But we'll move on to board development.
So there were 2 chapters in there, chapter 6 and 7. They were relatively short, and this is all related to strategic planning. I shared with you already. I put in here, part B would be sharing the strategic planning calendar, but that's something I can very easily do in the form of an email as well. But the goal is to have. We're working on this idea of a portrait of a learner here within Osborne. For those of you that were at the Montecito session, you got to see what that is, what that session looked like, and if any of you that are going to be at the further sessions. But we're looking at being with every community in the January, February time, all 6 sites, and doing so again in the later April, early May time for really digging deep into a data dive and building the needs assessment after looking at that data, and then building action plans, strategic action plans. But the first step is this concept of building the portrait of a learner. And I'll be very happy to share with you the presentation that I used the other day, so you can take a look through that. In terms of discussion of chapters 6 and 7 of strategic planning, the first section was on building capacity. Really talking a lot about both chapters 6 and 7 dealt a lot with some things that fortunately we have in place, like that space for the professional learning process, talks about professional learning communities and the importance of that. Thanks to not necessarily this board, you guys support the continuation of it, but our prior boards for approving our early releases on Wednesdays for professional learning, we're very well set up for a lot of that work from chapter 6. So I'll just kind of open it up to you guys for any thoughts on chapter 6, which have to do with that building capacity for being able to implement the action, your strategic plan, or chapter 7, which talks a little bit about the implementation and some of the personnel around making sure that plan actually gets put into action.
And I'll go ahead and start with a kind of reflection on that. As I was reading this, and then I was like flipping to the news, looking at what's happening with some other districts, I was like, wow, I'm really thankful for the capacity that we have at Osborne, and some really good financial folks, and really great checks and balances, and really that keep us in the black, that keep us really on top of our goals and obligations and things like that, and keep us out of any sort of negative news when it comes to being financial surprises, I guess I'll call them. So I was really appreciative of that. And the other thing, when I joined the board, one of the things that struck me was that I really liked was how at the bottom of our agendas or the items in our board packet, it has our governing board goals in them and kind of check boxes for those that really align and say, hey, how is this specific thing we're doing relate to our strategic plan? And I really want to kind of double down on that concept and really lean into that as we move forward, as we refresh our strategic plan, as we rethink about it as this new board and composition of folks who are just, I think, phenomenal people who are really great in each area that they work in, how we can really focus in and make sure that we are keeping an eye on those SMART goals and keeping tabs on those things and tracking them on a day-to-day basis. So I think appreciate all the groundwork that's been done. I think, we've got a lot of room to do even more. Other thoughts? All right.
There were several things that struck me in this reading, because I always tend to read through the lens of a teacher, and so it's as a teacher, sometimes when I read these books, I'm like, okay, but how does that actually work? Right. And so, reading through the cyclical process to build educator capacity, I want to make sure that our administrators and our leaders are not just adding things to the plates of teachers. I think that one of the ways education burns out teachers is to continuously give them more and more work. And we see leaders that are capable, and so we just continue to add to their pile. And I don't want to do that, because we can reshape what leadership looks like and in different capacities, and we can remove things from the plates of our teachers who work so hard. The one line that I highlighted was all school members are responsible for meeting learner needs. And I thought this was so striking, because every time I step foot on the campus where my son goes to school, every single person on that campus is a teacher. It doesn't matter what their title is, whether they're working in the cafeteria, whether the health aide, the ladies at the front desk. Everybody I know at his campus wants him to be successful and teaches him things in different ways. I remember, it's kind of yucky, but my kid had pink eye once. And so we went to the health office, and the health aide was showing him how to do the drops. Like, that was such a pivotal moment, because I never dealt with pink eye before. And so I was learning and my kid was learning. And that was, somebody who's a health aide who was teaching my son something. That was an important lesson. And I just think about all of the people on his campus, and just so thankful for everybody who are true teachers in every sense of that word. And then in the reflection part on chapter 7, it talks about how the No Child Left Behind mandates, there were few long-term continuous school improvement successes. Schools had good intentions, however, each year brought new mandates for improvement and new initiatives. Rarely were initiatives removed. And so when we are going to be developing our strategic plan, I want to make sure that we are removing old things and updating them, that we are not just layering more and more on our staff. We ask our staff to do extraordinary things every day. And so I want to make sure that we are taking away things, taking things off their plate, because working on a campus in whatever capacity you may work is a hard job. Our teachers are exhausted. I remember one time my husband said, I had a really hard day at work. I led 3 meetings. And I said, you know what I do every day? I lead 5 meetings every day with 35 students for an hour with diverse needs, diverse personalities, and I do that all day long. And so I'm really sorry your meeting with 5 people was so difficult, but teachers are superheroes, and our staff that work on our campuses are superheroes. So I want to make sure that when we are implementing our new strategic plan, that we are taking away things we can while we're implementing new future improvements to our campuses.
Yeah, I wanted to piggyback on the data or the goals. I would really love for us to have, and I know I've said this before, but just like achievement goals for our students. And so I know it's always, I'm a visual like learner, and I love seeing like those graphs, right? Like almost when people are fundraising money and it's like that temperature and it's going up. So I would love for us to see some of those achievement goals that we can share with our community and show, how it is that our students here at Osborne are improving. So I would love for that to be part of the strategic plan. So for us to get that data that the community and our stakeholders are going to give us, and to be able to put them into those SMART goals that we can really see beginning, middle, and end.
It talks a lot about, making sure that as we're developing this strategic plan, that people know what their role is, and, for the different goals, who's in charge of that, who's taking the lead on it. So I think once we develop our goals, it would be really great for us to, maybe it's part of our webpage or something, we have a document where it's like, goal number 1, blah, blah, blah. And then it's, who's who's in charge of it, and it lists, you know, who's that bucket that might fall under. When do we want that accomplished, if that makes sense? And that way we can regularly update that for a community so that they can see, hey, here's the goal that the district has based on community input. Here's where they are at with achieving that goal. And I think it's a really good part of that honesty and transparency that we can have with our community, because we might have a great goal and we might be working towards it and it might be going slower than we want it to, but that's okay too, to be like, hey, you know what, we've tried these things, maybe this worked, maybe this didn't, or maybe we have a goal and we think it's going to take 3 years, and this usually doesn't happen in education, but it takes 1 year, right? Like, that would be great. But I think that transparency and, you know, having clear roles, a timeline for when we want to do things, and then, you know, involving our community in that. And, you know, if we need to revise it at some point because things change, then I think that's okay to do that too.
Thank you for all the great reflections, and really excited to dig my teeth, sink my teeth into this whole process. Okay, moving on to our, I guess, Dr. Barrett, you're just going to send us an email.
Yes, and along with kind of the presentation, for those of you that were able to be there, fantastic. For those of you that weren't, you'll get a preview of what you're going to see and engage in with the community.
Reflections or feedbacks on the meeting. I'll start with our newest board member,
Well, I'm just happy to be here, working with this great board. Thanks for the Clarendon staff that came out, and for the students that came out as well. I think they did a great job.
Just reflecting on community. We know that we have a new president and a new administration. I think we are all aware of the onslaught of executive orders that were issued yesterday that target a lot of the communities that we love and care about here in our community. I just want to encourage us to lean into our community. We are going to be the ones that are here for us. We're going to be the ones that are going to be here to support us. And Osborne is going to be here for our students. I know that we have a lot of people in our community that are scared. I know we have, a lot of families that are scared. And so I just want our families to know that we are here for them. And then just wanted to say that, it looks like we are trying to be divided. And we need to more than ever lean into our community and our families and those that we care about, because unity is what we need more than ever. And I really have reflected over the last couple months of how important education is. It's something that we need more than ever. So I want to say thank you to our staff and our teachers who are working so hard to educate our future. We're giving our students the ability to think for themselves, to critically think, to be biliterate and bicultural, and really have those skills that will enable them to be successful. I don't think that a lot of people voted in this last election with that critical lens. Seeing people cheer for tariffs when we know that tariffs are a way to increase prices on everything we are going to buy. People cheering for the end of reproductive rights when that really impacts family planning. People cheering for these immigration roundups when it will be detrimental to our communities and to our economy. I think that a lot of people didn't really think their vote through. and we are building the next capacity of leaders and critical thinkers who will really look at their vote with a critical lens and think, how will this impact myself? How will this impact my community? So education is more important than it's ever been. And thank you to those of you who are educating our children, because, you know, we're building a future for them. And so just wanted to let our community know that we are there for them, and we are going to do everything we can as a governing board to keep our community safe. I also wanted to wish, I saw this in, I don't know if it was in the board packet or just online. Best of luck to the Osborne Middle School students who are going to be at the Feeding the Future event this weekend with the Blue Watermelon Project. They've been working with the Child Nutrition Department, which is really exciting, and it's a contest where they're going to be cooking, I believe. And so best of luck to our OMS students. I know they're going to make us super proud. Thank you to Mr. Jeff Martin. Clarendon packed the house tonight. That was amazing. Like President Hermes said, we're going to have to move to a bigger venue next year, I think, if you continue to grow all your fantastic clubs. Thank you for a wonderful celebration of Clarendon. And I just love our 21st century programs. I think it builds so much capacity and leadership for the young people who attend our schools. So thank you to all of our administrators who help facilitate those, and to all of our teachers and staff who spend time with our students after school. Thank you.
Thank you, Board Member Ramos.
So I'll try to make this as quickly as possible. Yeah, Clarendon, that was really, really awesome to see. I was really impressed with the dance club doing Bad Bunny at the end there, like that cultura, which is a factor that, you know, we're always talking about here, and ensuring that we have inclusivity in our schools, right? So thank you so much for that. And it was also really great to see, so in my full-time job, so I'm the managing director of leadership programs at All in Education, which we are an education advocacy nonprofit. And Mr. Marshall, who got the Integrity Award, is one of my current fellows for one of our fellowships. So that was really, really neat to see that he's doing such amazing work here. At our district. Also, our HR presentation was really insightful. I am so thankful that we have you and the team dreaming big, because that is exactly what we want for our district. And I know I've had this conversation with our other board members, just about like, what do we want to see? Like, how big do we want to dream? Because we want to attract the best teachers to our district. We're in Central Phoenix, where everything is happening. So we definitely want to keep dreaming big and make it happen. And I know you have our support. So we're excited to see how we can make some of those things on that wish list happen as soon as next school year, hopefully. And then also celebrate the fact that we got an email from the Arizona Auditor General's office saying that we have no financial risk in all of the 10 risk measures. So thank you so much for that. You know, I had a conversation with my father about this because he worked for the Isaac School District. And so it's very unfortunate to see what is happening over there. But he said, be careful. And I said, I don't need to be careful, because we have a great team that is extremely careful and does all the checks and balances. And then just to touch upon what is happening, so I know that it's really heartbreaking to see our communities afraid. My wife came home and shared with me that one of her students cried because of all of the executive orders that were signed yesterday and all of the things that were said yesterday. So I just want to let our community know that we are going to stand strong, and we are going to do whatever we can do to protect our families, and to hopefully set that example for other districts to also be able to just outwardly protect their families as well. And so I just want you all to know that we are currently working on trying to stay ahead of whatever is to come, to make sure that we have proper policy in place to protect our families. So thank you.
Wonderful. Board Member Greenberg.
I'm really excited. I know this is going to come up in future agenda items, to share with our fellow board members what President Ramos and I have drafted in terms of a safe haven policy. I also want to share too that, you know, our community is scared, and you know, our community is very supportive of our schools, and we in turn are very supportive of our families, our students, our parents. I also know though that even within our community that there are people that voted on both sides of the aisle, and you know, I want to ensure that those students, no matter what their families felt, that they're able to learn those critical thinking skills in our walls, that they feel safe, that they can explore their own identities, their own beliefs. Because at the end of the day, as educators, we're here to educate and make sure that all of our students are safe. And in turn, we model to our students what that looks like, and that community is about having people of all different backgrounds. And I think that that's really hard. It's difficult when your safety is at risk and you don't know day to day what that's going to look like for you. But you know, I do think it is such a value that we have in the Osborne community that any of our students are welcome here, and that our community is going to wrap our arms around them. We're going to try to find resources to support them. And so I hope that, you know, everyone that walks through our doors continues to feel welcomed, loved, and cared for. Yeah.
Wonderful. Just want to first say welcome, Eric Thompson. It's great to have you. It's really wonderful to have Five again. And, you know, it feels like you've been here already, but I just want to acknowledge this is your first meeting, but it feels like you've been here because you've done so much for this district, being on the foundation board, being on a whole host of different parent committees and capital improvement committees. You know, this stuff isn't new to you because you've been so involved with it, as well as just your professional background. And it's, you know, great to have an accountant on any board. And we really appreciate you. We welcome you. We look forward to the next 4 years with you. Next, congratulations to President Ramos. It really has been a pleasure to be president for the last 2 years and to work so closely with Dr. Robert and with other administrators and staff. It's been really a lot of fun to do that. I really enjoyed it. And it's really important to me as well that you know, other folks have that opportunity, and we encourage the presidency to move around and have other people to have that wonderful opportunity. And I know Board Member Ramos will do a phenomenal job and as president of the Osborne School District Governing Board. So, Dr. Woodland, it's a wonderful presentation. I really appreciate it and love thinking big. That was wonderful. And Clarendon, it's great to see everybody packing the house. It was just phenomenal to see what's going on over there. I feel like I got a future preview of the future Cougar Night. I think it's next week, and I'll be there for that as well. I've got a daughter who will be there next year, and just want all parents, frankly, in Osborne to know the wonderful things that we're doing at Clarendon and our other schools. You know, in terms of, you know, I've heard from families already in terms of what's happening this week. I've heard from families. I've heard from teachers who have told me about families sharing their concerns, and it's real. You know, it's a real thing that families are concerned, families are worried, and so, you know, we at the Osborne School District are number one. It's family safety, it's student safety, and that most certainly includes feeling safe at school and knowing that we are protecting our kids and doing everything to keep our kids here and our families together and protected. And so look forward to working further on that and just getting that word out there that our kids are safe here and we are going to protect our families regardless of where our kids come from. and that we love them and we want them here and we were going to protect them. Reflections.
Yep. Just very quickly, I want to thank the folks that stepped forward tonight. So that's Jeff for the amazing presentation of all the wonderful things happening. And I love how you pointed out that list of your 21st century programs and you couldn't contain them to the page. There's so much more, and that's something that you're going to see with all of our schools. They come and they show you something that's a highlight, but it is nowhere near the entirety of what happens on our campuses. Thank you for that. Dr. Woodland, fantastic presentation that you can see was so well received. You've got brilliant ideas, bright ideas, big thinking, and we look forward to you bringing some of those to fruition. And not everything that we discuss comes to fruition, but we give it its fair shake and look at what we can make possible. In terms of that making things possible, Ed, I want to thank you for the past 2 years of leadership of this board and this district through your service as board president. Violetta, I'm very much looking forward to your leadership in the year to come. As you heard from our board members, they spoke with a lot of heart, and I don't want to just repeat their words that were said. I guess my message is, you know who and what this community is. Some things may have changed in other places yesterday, but they didn't change here in Osborne. We'll continue being the district for this community that you've come to rely on for so long, the reason why you chose us and the reason why you're going to continue to stay with us.
Hear, hear. Future agenda items. First opportunity, Board Member Thompson.
Well, just as I had said when Dr. Woodland had presented, I really would like to see those financial numbers for if we can get the paid parental leave, all the full spectrum there of, 2 to 12 weeks or more. I don't expect more, but, just to see the options and see what it would cost. And everything does have a trade-off, but I would like to know what that cost would be.
Great. Board Member Ford.
It doesn't need to go on the agenda, but Dr. Robert, would you put together all of the extra duties associated with being a dual language teacher and then what the financial compensation is over the entire year for our dual language instructors? I don't want our teachers to not get paid for their time. So want to make sure that they're being compensated fairly.
Board Member Ramos.
None at this time.
Board Member Greenberg.
The ones that are up there, and then to add, if there are any positions like special education teachers, if they're required to hold IP meetings outside of school hours. So thinking about any positions outside of dual language, if we could get an idea of what that looks like.
Great. And nothing from me at this time. Thank you so much. Everybody have a great rest of your night.
Wait, hold on. I get to adjourn the meeting.
Oh, please do. Yes, I don't have that power anymore.
I adjourned the meeting at 8:28.
Wonderful.